If you're afraid to ask your crush out, I ask, like, what are you afraid of? You know, oh, this could happen, that could happen. Then you're failing your first test. Because your first test is, are you brave enough? Do you have the courage to talk to this person? And if the person kind of doesn't talk too much, do you just go, oh, well, I tried, and walk away? You're failing the second test, perhaps, which is perseverance and resilience. If you don't have the courage to ask somebody out, do you have the courage to stand up for them in life? When times get difficult and times get hard, if you were afraid to even talk to them, if you were afraid to ask them out, which isn't really that big of a deal, it might feel like it, but if that feels like a big deal, imagine how much bigger of a deal it becomes when things get dangerous in life. Because what is it that people seek? Well, one of the things that the 36 questions could have taught us is about security and safety. Talk about people who walk around the world today and feel incredibly safe. They just feel like nothing bad could happen to them. Probably not so much today as 10,000 years ago or even a couple hundred years ago, because our society is so much safer than ever before. Even to the point that, I mean, hell, we try hard now to protect people from words. You know, that's how safe we are today. We're like, I mean, I guess murder rates are low than ever have been. Assault, all these things are, even if they do happen, but they're so uncommon. They're so, well, words. We need to be safe from words now because we're relatively safe from most other things. Become strong, become resilient. And that's the only way you can actually become anything. Meaning the only way that you can actually be you and not have a fear of the consequences is to be so strong that you can absorb the consequences of it. That's hard to do because most of us follow what's called a herd mentality, a herd morality. What's the right thing to do? Whatever the group says. They're only in the herd because they're weak. They need to have lots of people around them to protect them. And we'll, by the way, when you're in that situation, you'll mask weakness as virtue. You'll say things like, you know what? We get more done together. Yeah, we're better together, aren't we? Yeah, groups. You guys ever been in a group project that the group did way better than you would have done? Assuming you're the A student. If you're the F student, oh yeah, absolutely. You get way more done in a group. But the reason that criticism is so dangerous to us, and I mean that dangerous to us in our heads, is because it means that you're going to be alone. People won't be around you. Murder, you go to prison, and there's a fear, which is that you're going to be in there and you're going to be defenseless because you won't have people around you to protect you. Same with self-defense, a loss of reputation, same thing. But the loss of reputation, then maybe people won't want to be around me. You notice how all of these are, they ultimately lead to a fear of being alone, a fear of loneliness. And there's a reason for that. Like if I ask, like when we say, why do people act like other people? Oh, they just want people to like them. Of course you do. Of course you do. What area of your life is not made better by having people around you? You ever go to a party by yourself? That's just sad. That means you're an alcoholic. You ever go to, Disneyland by yourself? Yeah, maybe. But maybe it's also more fun with other people. Is that a hand? That's fine. Even you can go to the movies by yourself, sure, but isn't it better with somebody else? You can buy yourself flowers, but let's face it, isn't that song really pathetic? It really is. And we all kind of know that intuitively, but we just kind of say, that's right, I can do that too, because I'm by myself. Because we know that things are better with people because we are social creatures. Now, of course, it begs that question, why is it important for us to be social creatures? Well, in other words, why is that so embedded in us? Because we like to feel safe, and there's an association there with having people around us and feeling safe. Not just affirmation, like, oh, you're a good person, you're okay. All of that's important to us. But why? It's difficult for us to get our heads around in 2024. I wonder how many of you, when you walk out of this room afterwards, you're like, because the world's a dangerous place. Or do you walk around and just be like, I'll probably walk home today and not die. There's probably no saber-toothed tiger hiding behind this bush over here. There's probably no other tribe coming over here to take our food. In other words, even when the world is dangerous, it's still not nearly as dangerous as it used to be, going back 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 30,000 years. And those are experiences that are still embedded in us. That those are the things that shape us. Why? Because the person who had the personality type 10,000 years ago, who said, I don't need people, and wandered off in the desert by themselves, probably died. Probably didn't have a family, because let's face it, if you want to be by yourself, you're probably not going to have a family. I mean, except for my dad, I guess. But you're probably not going to want to have a family around you because you want to be by yourself. Makes sense. And that means that your genes are going to die off. Those of us who, like people who like having people around them, even if you're an introvert, still there are times you like having people around you. And so what do? Well, you pass those genes along. We make more people who like to have lots of people. And it turns out what happens when you have lots of people around you? You're safe. You're safe. So what we're ultimately seeking is safety in a lot of areas. So it's this fear of the consequence of the actions. Because the consequences of the actions, you find out, oftentimes leave us alone. In some cases, damaged liver. So what? What is that? What's the danger of that? Well, you might die. Is there any time in your life when you're less alone than when you're going to die? Because that's the thing that reminds you that you're in a room, even if you're surrounded by loved ones, you realize that in an hour they're going to be here and you're not. That wherever you're going by yourself, probably. And so, alone. So it's the freedoms that we hold back on because of a fear of that loneliness. So this is important because this tells you something. If you're going to be a person who's going to speak out, now don't murder, of course, but the person who's brave enough to defend themselves, the person who's brave enough essentially to exercise freedom is a person who is strong enough to absorb the consequences of their independence. In other words, if you're going to be a loner, if you're going to be an individualist, if you're not going to seek the approval of others, you have to be strong enough to absorb the consequences. If you're going to wander off into the desert 10,000 years ago, you better be strong enough to fight off every lion that you come across. Everything, you better be strong enough to find water to survive. If not, well, you're dead. If you're going to go out and you're going to, say what you want and you're going to, stand up for yourself, you're going to have to be strong enough. And so the fear of freedom is the fear of assuming responsibility, because the responsibilities oftentimes can be the things that expose our weaknesses. Whatever area you're weak in, your responsibilities are probably going to expose. Have a difficulty with being patient. Being a parent is probably going to expose that. Take on the responsibility of having children, and you are and you're lazy. That's going to become very apparent when rent is tight and when food's tight and you're struggling to pay bills, just not because of big circumstances, but just because you just don't keep working. You're lazy. Are you somebody who can't be counted on? Yeah, being in a relationship with someone is going to expose that. When I was talking in second period today, I pointed this out. It's not popular, but it's true, and then you can kind of take it for what you will. If you're afraid to ask your crush out, I ask, what are you afraid of? This could happen, that could happen. Then you're failing your first test. Because your first test is, are you brave enough? Do you have the courage to talk to this person? And if the person doesn't talk too much, do you just go, oh, well, I tried, and walk away? You're failing the second test, perhaps, which is perseverance and resilience. If you don't have the courage to ask somebody out, do you have the courage to stand up for them in life? When times get difficult and times get hard, if you were afraid to even talk to them, if you were afraid to ask them out, which isn't really that big of a deal, it might feel like it, but if that feels like a big deal, imagine how much bigger of a deal it becomes when things get dangerous in life. It could be quite literally dangerous, active shooter, something like that. It could be dangerous in the sense of a partner's going to stand up for something they believe in. Will you be by their side? A person's going to take a risk in life, something they want to try to achieve. Do you have the courage to stand by them? Literally, actually, not just I'll be around. Because what is it that people seek? Well, one of the things that the 36 questions could have taught us is about security and safety. And so it's difficult to have horrible consequences looming over you and to feel secure and safe. In order to feel secure and safe, you need to be a really strong personality. And we talk about people, who walk around the world today and feel incredibly safe. They just feel like nothing bad could happen to them. probably not so much today as 10,000 years ago or even a couple hundred years ago, because our society is so much safer than ever before. Even to the point that, hell, we try hard now to protect people from words. That's how safe we are today. We're like, I guess murder rates are low, they never have been. Assault, all these things are, even if they do happen, but they're so uncommon, they're so, words. We need to be safe from words now, because we're relatively safe from most other things. And if you're hearing this and you're thinking, we're not safe, there's crime everywhere, and I want you to understand that you lack a perspective. Because there's gonna always be crime. Well, what's the rate? How common is it? I know people, well, so do I. How many people do you know? Hundreds, thousands? And the data tells us it's pretty rare. And like I said, we're so safe, we almost have to invent boogeymen now to go after. But become strong, become resilient. And that's the only way you can actually become anything. Meaning the only way that you can actually be you and not have a fear of the consequences is to be so strong that you can absorb the consequences of it. You can absorb the criticism and really have it make no effect on you. That's hard to do. Because most of us follow what's called a herd mentality, a herd morality. What's the right thing to do? Whatever the group says. Now understand, by the way, that when you have a group of people who are following who are a herd, they're only in the herd because they're weak. They need to have lots of people around them to protect them. And we'll, by the way, when you're in that situation, you'll mask weakness as virtue. You'll say things like, you know what? We get more done together. Yeah, we're better together, aren't we? Yeah, groups. You guys ever been in a group project that the group did way better than you would have done? Assuming you're the A student. If you're the F student, oh yeah, absolutely. You get way more done in a group because you would get fuck all done if you weren't in a group. But if you're the A student, you're like, I could have had this done in 3 hours and it would have been better than if I was relying on other people. And now if that person sits there and says, I don't want to be part of this group, what do we say? What's wrong with this guy? He thinks he's better than us. He's not so good. Let's attack him. And then you attack him and you call him mean words, and that person is just like, shrug their shoulders. And then you get that person who's like really, really is a loner, and we go, my God, they're dangerous. And they are dangerous. Because you have no idea what they're going to do. Why not? Because they don't depend on you for approval. If you tell them good job, it means as much to them as if you say bad job. This is a person who stands above the herd, and the herd will look at them and think that they're dangerous. They have different ideas from us, and you see it play out in society now. The person who is strong, independent, doesn't care about the opinions of others. Not that they don't care, not that they're unfeeling, but that they're able to see what it is. You believe what you believe because you need to be part of the herd to protect you because you're weak. Oh, so you think you're better than me? Yes, I know I am. I know I'm stronger than you. Okay, well, and then they'll call you names online because all they have is words. It's words criticizing words criticizing words. It doesn't do or mean anything. And you can see it. You can see it. Ooh.
I didn't know you were in the middle of lecture. Just wanted to say hi.
Hi. I thought she brought me food or something. No, just sitting here hungry. I wasn't talking, we were just listening to my stomach grumble. Okay, well, good luck with that, bye. And so, to be strong means to be able to stand on your own. Not that you always will. You'll find other people around you, but you don't need them. If anything, they need you, but you don't need them. You don't need affirmation. Criticism doesn't bother you. Think about some people in life who are like this, by the way. Elon Musk. Do you think that criticism bothers this guy? No, not at all. So you can get online and call him. And by the way, whether you like him or not, I'm not saying he's a good guy or a bad guy. I'm just saying he clearly doesn't care what people think. You look at a guy like Bill Gates. He clearly doesn't care what people think. And more on that in that third quarter when we talk about Friedrich Nietzsche and the herd morality. So I will leave it with this: that the person who stands over here, who's not afraid of these things, they stand beyond judgments of good and evil. They don't think about the world in terms of good or evil. They think about it in terms of effectiveness or ineffective. They talk about it in terms of power Am I able to do the things I want to do? The herd is always trying to limit the individual. The individual is always standing above the herd. In fact, the herd has to bring you down into it in order to exist, to survive. But the person who's able to have their own value system, well defended, understood, thoughtful, strong. In German, it's called the Übermensch, which means the overman, the superman. But it's the person who stands beyond any judgments of good or evil. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday.